Shakala Vedera Hoya Bhagavan Se Sambandha Swarup in his original form. Aishvarye opulence. Tanra his. Nahi there is none. Maya Gandha contamination of the material world. Sakala in all. Vedera Vedas. Haya it is so. Bhagavan the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Say that Sambandha relationship. Translation. In his original form, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full of transcendental opulences which are free from the contamination of the material world. It is to be understood that in all Vedic literature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal. There's no purport there. Sambandha, last word of this verse, is translated as relationship. It doesn't appear to be there in the translation, but it's a hint for the content of the future verses. The discussion is leading up to a conclusion. So text 140, I'll just recite it. Tanre nirvishesha kahi chit shakti naimani arda swarup namanile purnata hayahani. Tanre unto him, nirvishesha impersonal, kahi we say, chit shakti spiritual energy, na do not, mani accept, arda half, swarupa form, na not, manile accepting, purnata fullness, haya becomes, hani defective. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. When we speak of the Supreme as impersonal, we deny his spiritual potencies. Logically, if you accept half of the truth, you cannot understand the whole. Therefore, in the Upanishads it is said, Om Purnam Madaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. This verse, which is mentioned in the Upanishad, Briharananyaka Upanishad and many other Upanishads, indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in 6 opulences. His position is unique, for he possesses all riches, strength, influence, beauty, knowledge and renunciation. Brahman means the greatest, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is greater than the greatest. Just as the sun globe is greater than the sunshine, which is all pervading in the universe. Although the sunshine that spreads all over the universes appears very great to the less knowledgeable, greater than the sunshine is the sun itself, and greater than the sun is the sun God. Similarly, impersonal Brahman is not the greatest, although it appears to be so. Impersonal Brahman is only the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the transcendental form of the Lord is greater than both the impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. Therefore, whenever the word Brahman is used in Vedic literature, it is understood to refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is also addressed as Para-Brahman. Mayavadis and others sometimes misunderstand Brahman because although every living entity is also Brahman, therefore Krishna is referred to as Para-Brahman, the Supreme Brahman. In the Vedic literature, whenever the words Brahman or Para-Brahman are used, they are to be understood to refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is their real meaning. Since the entire Vedic literature deals with the subject of Brahman, Krishna is therefore the ultimate goal of Vedic understanding. The impersonal Brahma-Jyoti rests on the personal form of the Lord. Therefore, although the impersonal effulgence, the Brahma-Jyoti, is the first realization, one must enter into it, as mentioned in the Upanishad, to find the Supreme Person. And then one's knowledge is perfect. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 19, also confirms this. Bahunam janmanam mante jnanavamam prapadyate. One's search for the absolute truth by dint of speculative knowledge is complete when one comes to the point of understanding Krishna and surrenders unto him. That is the real point of perfectional knowledge. Partial realization of the absolute truth as impersonal Brahman denies the complete opulences of the Lord. This is a hazardous understanding of the absolute truth. Unless one accepts all the features of the absolute truth, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his knowledge is imperfect. Shripad Ramanujacharya in his Vedanta Sangraha says, Jnanena dhamena swarupam api nirupitam natu jnana maitram brahmeti katam idam avagamyate iti chet. He thus indicates that the real absolute identity must be understood in terms of both his knowledge and characteristics. Simply to understand the absolute truth to be full of knowledge is not sufficient. In the Vedic literature we find the statement Yasava Gya Sava Vit, which means that the absolute truth knows everything perfectly. But we also learn from the Vedic description Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Sriyate, that not only does he know everything, but he also acts accordingly by utilizing his different energies. Thus, to understand that Brahman, the Supreme, is conscious is not sufficient. One must know how he consciously acts through his different energies. Mayavad philosophy simply informs us of the consciousness of the absolute truth, but does not give us information of how he acts with his consciousness. That is the defect of that philosophy. Om Gyantimarantasya Ganan Gana Shalakaya Chakshushun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance. My spiritual master, he forced my eyes open with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Wonderful verses and wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada, really entering into and dissecting the spiritual Vedic terms and their ultimate understanding, to get a proper interpretation of a particular subject, you need to consult a master. There are many experts around, many experts who can show proficiency in certain things, but often it's just a show. They show off their expertise. Whereas a master understands and can present it for our understanding. The masters, they seem to effortlessly achieve so many things by dint of their wisdom, their knowledge. Sometimes they seem on such an exalted platform that, wow, how am I ever going to achieve such expertise? A good factor is, because some experts, the doctors and the scientists, they'll keep it as a factor to keep us at a distance. Oh, I'm the expert and you won't get anywhere unless you consult me, and I'm not going to tell you straight. I'll give you all this jargon and gobbledygook and word jugglery. Whereas a master humbly welcomes people coming and inquiring. So, in a humble way, how is it that I am to understand all of these amazing subjects which are far beyond my normal comprehension? And then the master, taking a satisfied position that somebody's inquired, humbly presents in a way that's free from distortion, not trying to hide the truth, not trying to hold back. The doctors, they write prescriptions. It's practically illegible, so that you can't then work out what it is that they're giving you, and you can't get it in an alternative form. My father's a doctor, and his handwriting is very hard to decipher. But the master, somebody who's a real healer, somebody who's really caring about your welfare, lays it out in front of you, will practically demonstrate, here, go and get this, do this. I'll show you how to live your life. So Srila Prabhupada, presenting his purports here, there's one verse here quoting Ramanujacharya. Some people would criticize, some people might say that Srila Prabhupada, he's too heavily emphasized Krishna. On 3 or 4 occasions here, there's a concept which we could have taken another way. He slammed it back. No, it means Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate goal. He was criticized by scholars. You're Krishnaizing these. They're free for all these other interpretations. No, Krishna is the ultimate goal. So Prabhupada has presented it like that. Some people said that he's missed out. He hasn't given us the topmost truth. He hasn't indulged our sentiments in the rasa, the way of Krishna's intimate dealings. But to the contrary, and scholars are also backing it up. Sri Ramanujacharya, he's made one statement here. You look at some of the statements of Ramanujacharya, there's one purport to one verse, and Ramanujacharya speaks for 26 pages. Prabhupada summarises it in half a page. But everything's there. Everything's there. He's so masterly. He's more than an expert. He's masterly. So here, the terms Brahman, Purnam, Sambandha, relationship, the ultimate goal, have been put within our grasp, have been made very tangible. The way he flavours his presentation is very appealing. He's just not using gobbledygook. He's not, which is one of the tactics of the Mayavadis, that they present a concept in so many flowery words, flowery language, and it's twisted and it's convoluted and it's all one, and you can become God, and it's just a matter of you're Brahman, I'm Brahman. A nice little song God is love, and love is God, and God and I are one. Oh, that sounds good. What am I going to do with it? What does it mean? I'm God? Appealing, and then sometimes you'll go and you'll hear a speech by such a person, and you'll think, wow, that was amazing. What did he say? I couldn't understand anything. I couldn't make head nor tail. I don't know what to do. I'm bamboozled. I'm lost. It sounded good. He said if I just give him $125, he'll give me a mantra. And I practice that mantra, in 6 months I'll be God. Wow, that's cheap. I'll buy into that. But Prabhupada, he's not going to rip us off like that. Spiritual life is not so cheap. We always go and consult someone. We've got a pain. We don't know how to pay the taxes. We don't know how to navigate from here. We consult. Now Google is the ultimate authority. We get all the evidence there. If we want to know the answer, the definitive answer, buck to Google. But he's flawed because you've got to look back. What source? What is he quoting? Where's it coming from? You can see so many alternatives, and you have to choose. You have to discriminate. Is this closer to the truth? Is this for meat eaters? This is being presented? Is this for people who have bought into the materialistic concept of life? You really have to sift through it. So Prabhupada doesn't beat around the bush. Doesn't have time. The Vedic education, there's no children's syllabus. There's no, you learn something that's not relevant, that you're going to forget. There's lovely nursery rhymes. I had some that were just on the top of my mind. But they're there, they're pleasant, and they give you a little bit of glimpse. But previously the nursery rhymes were based on Hans Christian Andersen's. And his writings, a lot of that was coming from the one of the scriptures, the Hitopradesh, which is a Vedic scripture describing different stories and analogies in which you're supposed to derive an understanding of the nature of the absolute truth. So there's no Vedic education separate for children. You don't teach them something and then later you advance to something else, and it's a different stage. They learn the same knowledge. Vedanta Sutra, one statement here, Vedanta Sutra can be expressed to anybody, any level of knowledge, any capacity, any understanding, and it makes sense. It's real, it's tangible. Vedanta Sutra, the little encapsulated meanings of the end of the Veda, Vedanta. So the Veda is expressed here, described here. It's doing service. So the conclusion of the Vedas, the Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra, the Srimad Bhagavatam, is that Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. These are three technical terms which are going to be discussed in great detail over the next so many verses. Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. I used to walk out of the temple in Sydney in the morning and look down towards North Sydney, and there's this huge skyscraper building, and it's named at the top, SAP. So every morning I'll be reminded, SAP, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. These are considered to be the three greatest treasures of the Vedic literature, of life. The three greatest treasures, Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. Sambandha means knowledge. Knowledge of our relationship with everything. The field of activities. What is that knowledge? If I stub my toe, should I rub it in the dirt or should I put cow dung on it? Should I wash it? What should I do? That sort of knowledge. How to maintain health. How to maintain hygiene. How to deal with the situation. Sambandha, knowledge. Mature knowledge. Ultimately, who am I? This body is changing, but I seem to have some constant experience. I'm above the body. I'm Brahman. I'm spiritual. The body is material. So, who am I? Where am I going? What's the goal of life? What's the goal of life? This is all sambandha. Sambandha gyan. Once one is settled in that, then one can move forward. If there's incomplete sambandha, if we think that I'm God, all I have to do is meditate and the universe is emanating from me. The sun rises when I wake up and I'm happy the sun rises. That's incomplete. That's a partial realization. So you won't do anything. You're stuck. What are you going to do with it? The Supreme, the Mayavadis, they get stuck. They don't know how to use energy. They understand that the Supreme, his nature of his consciousness, he's spiritual, but how does he act? What does he do? What are his characteristics? They've got knowledge, but they don't understand the characteristics of the Supreme. So Abhidaya refers to activities in relationship with the Supreme. In activities in relationship with our sambandha. What is our conclusion? If we've concluded that I'm a punk and I've got to look grungy and sound coarse and be anarchistic, then we'll act like that. We'll go and get the proper dress. We'll learn the lingos. We'll learn the songs. We'll confront everything. So according to our sambandha, we then act. If we conclude that our ultimate nature is that we are spiritual, we're servants of Krishna, then our actions will be how to please Krishna. Servant has to know how to serve. If you become employed as a servant of the Queen, you don't just march in there and say, hey Liz, what do you want for breakfast? You get trained up. Well, Her Majesty, you don't have to know how to address her, the etiquette of how to address your master. So you get trained in that language, you get trained in how to clean, how to keep things, what's the flavour, what's the taste that the person likes. They like their butter sandwiches with cucumbers in a particular way, and they like their dogs groomed in a certain way. So you have to get trained how to do that. And then slowly, eventually you'll be introduced to, okay, you can go solo, you can do that service. So the proper knowledge, proper understanding, okay, this is me. I'm not this body. I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm a spirit soul. I'm spiritual by nature, but I'm not the complete whole. The complete whole is inclusive of Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Three partial aspects. Bhagavan is the complete. So Abhidaya is the activities. And what are the activities that one engages in order to connect with the Supreme? There are 9 primary activities of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Saktimam, Atmanivedanam. Hearing and chanting. That's service. That will connect us with the Supreme. Because what we hear, we then tend to imbibe and we then tend to put into practice. We speak about it. So hearing, hearing about the Supreme, then our action will be directed that way. We'll start to act in relationship with the Supreme. The Supreme he's all-pervading. He has likes and dislikes. He appreciates humility. So we start to act like that. Arrogance, not welcomed. Pride is the one quality in the material world that is it's impossible practically to use in Krishna's service. We can use it, we can't be completely proud and completely arrogant. We can be proud of little things. proud that we've come in contact with this knowledge, proud that we're actually identifying as devotees. That sort of pride's okay, but it's not an all-devouring pride. So we learn all those different things. That's knowledge. That's sambandha. We then perform the activity, hearing, chanting, remembering. If you hear and chant enough about something, then eventually you remember it. So these songs, you've never heard them before. Now you hear them, and then you repeat them, and after a while they'll just become second nature. You remember them. So that type of remembrance, it's not just, oh, I had a flash of a thought. No, you become fixed in remembrance. Devotionals, you're remembering. Who am I? All the time, remembering who you are. I'm not this body, I'm the servant of Krishna. Remembering, padasevana, serving menially, serving the feet. Archanam, worship, deity worship. Worship is, everybody can do deity worship. You just come to the temple, bring an offering. You see there's something that needs doing around here, the place is there's some service for you. I can pick up this rubbish. I can sweep the floor. Something. So, deity worship. I can support the temple. I can give some money. Worshipping the deity. Without that, then the deity, we're not taking advantage of the opportunity to serve. Vandanam, offering prayers. Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam. Offering prayers. We can use our own prayers, or we can learn the notable prayers. And those prayers, they have deep significance. Every word which is invested with the Chit Shakti, the spiritual potency, carries that spiritual potency. Every word that is connected with the Supreme carries that potency. Therefore, it's no longer material. It takes on a different quality. So, Vandanam, Dasyam. Act in the position of a servant. Hanuman, he's the classic example. Hanuman was the best servant. Hanuman, servant of Ram. He was once asked, what's the nature? What does your service look like? So in order to display, he parted his chest and revealed his heart. To reveal one's heart. He revealed his heart, and it was seen. There was within his heart Ram and Sita and Hanuman. And then again, Hanuman's there revealing his heart. So it was like multiple visions of Hanuman, just on and on and on. He's just, within his heart he has Ram and Sita. And so he's their servant. He's their beloved servitor. He was happy one time. Lord Ram said, how can I please you? What reward can I give you? So Hanuman turned to Ram and said, give me a hug. And he was satisfied with that. That was enough to keep him engaged in that service. He was situated properly in his sambandha. And he was engaged in that service. Dasyam. Sakyam. Sakyam means friendship. I'm friendly with someone. There's many big personalities, and they have to maintain a distance. They have to present a position, an office. So they have many people who are coming and trying to get their favour and trying to please, kowtow to them. But sometimes, all the time, they need somebody they can relate to as a friend. They need to be able to drop that formal approach. So Arjuna, he's the classic example of somebody who perfected his life by being Krishna's friend. And once he realized, in the Bhagavad Gita it's described that he realized that Krishna was not just his friend, he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When devotees get very close to Krishna, they get covered over. They forget that Krishna's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they just regard him as their friend. So Arjuna, he saw it's described in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, on the battlefield, Krishna revealed his universal form. And Arjuna became overwhelmed. He was awestruck. I see all these flaming mouths and all of these warriors entering into your mouth. Who are you? He was struck with awe and wonder. And then Krishna said, "Time I am, the destroyer of all worlds, come to engage you in my service." So Arjuna, he was a little bit fearsome and perplexed. He said, "Please show me your original form." And Krishna, then he apologized. "I apologize. Sometimes as a friend, I took advantage of your association. I'd sit on the same level with you, and I'd order you around. But as a friend, he was within his rights to do that." So to develop that sort of relationship with Krishna, as a friend, with Krishna's devotees, as a friend. And then Atmani Vedanam, to surrender everything. Surrender everything. So these are items of devotional service, and these will help us to engage our nature, our sambandha, in activities in relationship with the Supreme. And then prayojana, SAP, sambandha abhidaya prayojana, there's fruits, there's results, there's rewards to achieve by serving the Supreme, by connecting with the Supreme, with Krishna, and pleasing him with our quality activity, with our service. Krishna becomes pleased, and we feel good. We feel satisfied. If you want to be happy, then you have to find somebody else who's happy and associate with them. Rama means the reservoir of all pleasure. So you find somebody who's happy and you associate with him. You chant the names, and you're sometimes in the doldrums. You're affected by. Then uplift your consciousness, connect, and you can feel the reciprocation. You can directly feel the reciprocation. So that's prayojana, that's a result. By engaging in this service, I get reciprocation. So I want to do more, and I want to get better and better. That eventually comes back and forms part of your sambandha. It translates back into the sambandha and expands your field of awareness. So these are considered the three great treasures of the Vedic literatures. Brahman, you see Brahman, it means Krishna. We are identified as Brahman because we have the same quality as Krishna. We are one with Krishna in quality, but different in quantity. We're not the sum total of all spirit. Krishna is Para-Brahman. He's Brahman, so wherever Brahman's mentioned, then you can read into it. That's Krishna. There are many different literatures which describe different Bhagavan. Lord Shiva can be addressed as Bhagavan. Narada Muni can be addressed as Bhagavan. It refers to one who is full of all opulences. They represent Krishna. Ultimately, Krishna is the source behind everything. Krishna is the source of all those opulences. So somebody who is invested with that potency, they become, in terms of avatar, they become a Shakti Avesh avatar. It's a quality of incarnation, because they're invested with those potencies. And if you think differently, then this understanding is hazardous, it's dangerous, it's suicidal. It's suicidal to try and take half the truth. Ardha Kuhakya Nyaya means the logic of half a hen. You see, I've got a hen and it's giving eggs, but I've got to work so hard feeding the front half. All I want is the eggs. I'll cut the chicken in half and I'll just get the eggs. Suicidal, illogical, waste of time. So that's what happens if we don't accept the whole truth. if we take only part of the truth. We read something and think, oh, that sounds good, but I'm not interested in that. I'll leave that aside. That doesn't make sense. No, the whole truth. All of the conclusions of the Vedas. But still, as I was saying from the beginning, we need a master. We need a master who can help to guide us through the incredible path of the Vedas. Bhakti, which is the conclusion of the Vedas, it's described to be like the back leg of a dog. Crooked. It doesn't go straight. It's always bent. You can't straighten out that leg. So bhakti, how to get there, it requires expert navigation at every turn. I'm feeling proud, but hang on, I'm not supposed to be proud. What can I be proud of? How can I use that quality in Krishna's service? Serve the devotees who are even better. I'm proud that I can serve you. I'm proud that you are showing such a good example. But don't get caught up on the downside. So, as I said, Sambandha Abhidaya Prayojana, this is going to be the subject matter of the future verses. That's coming up. So if you become a little bit acquainted with those terms, you can discuss. We can discuss amongst people, but often we have to bring people up to speed. What does the term mean? So if you become acquainted with that, and this is text 140, text 146. Well, the next so many verses, they give you more information about this presentation of the absolute truth. It's very valuable. You get more out of it. If you have knowledge, you're not in ignorance. It's actually ahimsa, means to not arrest the future progress. Non-violence. So it's violence if you don't have knowledge. And if somebody has knowledge and they don't give it to you, that's considered violence. So it's all here, it's all available. Please take. If anybody has any questions or comments, Krishna Kirtan.
This discrimination in relation to knowledge and seeking a guru, how does one come to that proper decision-making process? What brings a living entity to the point where you can disseminate real knowledge and false knowledge, genuine guru and false guru? Because like you said earlier in the lecture, there's a lot of words out there, there's a lot out there. What gives us that correct understanding? Where does that come from? Is that to be especially fortunate somehow, or is it karmic, or what brings a living entity to the point where you can discriminate real knowledge and false knowledge and genuine guru and false guru?
Definitely requires mercy and a proper attitude, devotional attitude, but then that has to be backed up with proper knowledge. You have to know where to get the right knowledge. And knowledge can be small, it can be big. The basic knowledge is God is great and I'm small. That's the beginning of transcendental realization. So in choosing a spiritual master and discriminating who is going to lead you up the garden path, who's bogus and who's correct, you have to examine. You have to examine through the eyes of Scripture, through the eyes of the other devotees, and through the words that the spiritual master is speaking themselves. But then you don't jump to conclusions. That's a system of checks and balances. You'll have to double check to make sure. Sometimes a teacher, a spiritual master, they might forget something. Or they might have there's so many things going on, well, I can't bring that to the forefront of my mind. That's not a disqualification. And the ultimate criteria is the behaviour, how somebody acts based on this knowledge. Prabhupada was asked a similar question, and his description was, how do you find a bona fide guru? You find that person who's most addicted to Krishna, who just loves to talk about Krishna, loves to hear about Krishna, loves to serve Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Nothing else with that. So there's a few little guide that I'm aware of. If you've got some other tips for us.
In
Nowadays, because our memories are short, then in order to supplement that, we should write it down. So to try and remember something, we should remember to write it down. And then once we've written it down, we should remember to check it again. We should remember to consult it, because we can write it down. So yeah, there's little intermediary steps that we have to practice if we're feeling a little bit bereft.
Since you asked, a verse that comes to mind is that famous verse in the Gita, ultimately we have accept scripture as the ultimate authority, but Krishna says in there that eventually it becomes self-evident. That's the third one, that verse.
This knowledge is the king of all knowledge, and most secret. It gives direct realization of the self by realization.
Yes, so ultimately it's actually experience knowledge rather than the theory.
Okay. There's a difference between knowledge, technical knowledge, jnana, and vijnana, realized knowledge, wisdom. So after applying knowledge properly for long enough, then it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. I'm supposed to get up in the morning. Oh, it's time to get up. I'll get up. I've got things to do. Don't wallow in the mode of ignorance. That's realized knowledge. And then you can apply that. It's a good start to the day. It's a good way to progress. Confirmed. Get up early.
If someone first contacts you, say spiritual knowledge or Vedic knowledge is Mayavad, personalism, then is that to be considered due to their insincerity that they accept Mayavad philosophy and then they don't
less intelligent.
Inquire further?
Poor fund of knowledge, less intelligent. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says if you hear Mayavad philosophy, it's like you're doomed. It's the Mayavadi philosophers and the Mayavadi people who are committed to it, then they are the greatest offenders. So if you come into their midst and you get lured in, it's like taking a poison. You're poisoned. But their good fortune is if they meet a devotee. Meet a pure devotee. And here the Mayavadis, they met Lord Chaitanya, they were averse to his way, they questioned him, they doubted him, but they were austere. And Lord Chaitanya gave them his mercy, and he was able to change their heart. So it is possible, but it's very difficult. Very difficult.
So if they hear Mayavad philosophy and they think, oh, this is absolute truth, then that should be considered their poor fund of knowledge.
False?
Their poor fund of knowledge.
Yeah. And if it's cheating. It's called cheating. The cheaters and the cheated. There's a whole lot of cheaters out there waiting for people who want to be cheated. They're doing a service. They're keeping people bound up. So after a while we have to realise I don't want to be cheated anymore. It's not working. I've got to go and find a proper. But there are many people who get burnt. Fruit on a tree, if you pick it at the right time, it will mature properly and it's edible. If you leave it on the tree for too long, it starts to rot. So some people have been bitten, some people have been poisoned, and they've over-ripened, they're rotten. But still, can be used as compost. There's still things that you can do. It can be used to produce the next crop. In the future, they can get some knowledge. And the mercy of Lord Chaitanya is so wonderful, so magnificent that it can bring people up from the gutter and help them to come in contact with the topmost knowledge, topmost understanding.
If someone is sincerely seeking, absolute truth, then after meeting Mayavad philosophy, then they should have like a realization that this is ultimate truth, right?
Yeah, they've got to realise the error of their ways.
Yeah.
It's said that milk, which is nourishing, milk which is considered to be very good foodstuff, touched by the lips of a serpent, will have poisonous effects. So, yeah, if you get poisoned, you have to go and do something about it. You have to get an antidote. Okay, thank you. Today is Odan Shasti, I saw on the calendar. It's a festival which is observed at the beginning of winter. Beginning of summer here, but in India, beginning of winter, it's like 6 degrees in Vrindavan at the moment. So on Odan Shasti, the deities are offered new cloth. And generally new cloth, you just buy it off the shelf and you offer it. It's full of starch, it's full of fungicides nowadays. It's So once a great devotee, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he was visiting the temple and he noted that the deities were being offered this starched cloth, unclean cloth. And in his mind he thought, that's offensive. It's not good. You're supposed to, suchi, everything's supposed to be clean. So Krishna, as Lord Jagannath, he was happy with the servants of his service of his servants that they'd offered him the cloth. But the person who came to criticize Pundarik Vijayanidhi, Krishna was unhappy with him. Is that the time when he slapped him? So Krishna, in his deity form, at night time, that Pundarik Vijayanidhi was asleep, and Lord Jagannath appeared in his dream and started slapping him for the offence of pointing out that so-called criticizing. And he woke up in the morning and his cheeks were all red, being beaten up by Lord Jagannath. So that's the festival that is commemorated today. Avoid criticizing. We don't understand. It's a tradition. Why do things get done like this? It's going against the rules. But there's one rule, and there's another rule which will supersede that rule. And there's another rule. There's the greatest, there's greater, and there's most great. So humbly accept, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm here, it's trouble. I bet rather than criticize, I'll note it down, remember to write it down, and I'll remember to ask somebody who I think will be able to give me a clear description. Jagannatha Swami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai.